Hi, this is Mike. In this short tutorial, we're going to help you introduce the Vision HR system to your staff. And to do that, what I want to do is give you a bit of background about how we did this, why we did what we did for a small professional practice. A number of years ago, there were studies done that compared satisfaction of employees in large organizations which had documented systems of how the employee understood what was going on, and then in smaller employers who had no system at all, who had no handbooks, nothing that the employee could see or read or review. And what the most important one for our purposes was a nursing staff who had two jobs. One was the job in a hospital, a large organization, which of course was more organized, and then a job in a smaller medical office, which was ad hoc, no organization whatsoever in terms of human resources. And what the studies found was that the employees, the nurses, were much more satisfied and happy and confident working in an organization where they had the opportunity to review documentation, to have a handbook in their hands, so that they knew when they asked questions or had questions, they knew what the answer was going to be. And they also knew what their obligations were. And so what we found there was that even in a small office, only 2 or 3 or 4 staff, satisfaction was much higher with employees when they had that, as opposed to not having anything. And of course, we know from my experience, the satisfaction of dentists or doctors is frankly much higher when they can fall back on written policies and procedures that they can guide their employees with. So when you introduce the handbook, that's one of the things you want to be talking about. You want to first set this up so that you bring all the staff in at one time. This isn't something where you just hand it out during the workday and say, hey, read this. You want to bring the staff in. You want to explain to them about the handbook, and you want to focus in that handbook on the fact that from now on, they are not going to have to worry about any questions about what their obligations are or what they need to do, or, for example, what your obligations are to them. They're going to understand because our handbook has detailed information for staff and for you about everything, as you'll see, from dress to use of electronic devices, to use of the phone, to behavior at work. All of these things are made available in our handbook. And so what you're telling your staff is, hey folks, you're no longer going to have to worry about coming to the office manager or coming to me if you have some specific question. You can go right to the handbook, and the handbook will tell you what it is. So it's a device to allow them to feel comfortable. And when they feel comfortable and confident, they're more productive. Now, the important thing for you from the standpoint of introducing this, and this is important, is that you are going to give them 1 paid hour to read this. Now you're going to say, why is that? Okay, why do I pay my staff to review this thing? Well, in many, many, many cases that I've been involved in and that I've read, and I've read thousands and thousands of employment cases over the last 25 years, what we find is that where an employee is terminated for cause, and then the employee comes back and files a claim or files suit or files a charge or makes a complaint with OSHA, something like that, in many times the company has an employment handbook and it has policies, and the employee violated that policy, and that's the basis of the employer's defense to this. But often, in many, many cases, what the employee has said is, well, I got the handbook, but I just didn't read it. Okay, I just didn't read it, so I really didn't know. And then there's a question sometimes in these cases about whether the employee actually was on notice, even though they got the handbook. So what you're going to do when you provide the handbook to each of your staff in this huddle or staff meeting, you're going to explain to them that, look, they're going to be paid an hour of their time to read the handbook, and you're going to hand out to them what we have here, which is our receipt and acknowledgement that they have the handbook. Now, the acknowledgement says I was paid to read this handbook, and I did. Now, if for some reason in the future there would ever be the potential or possibility that an employee, despite all of our efforts, we can't guarantee that people are not going to go crazy, or you're not going to have bad lawyers out there that are going to represent them. But if they do that, and it should ever come up that their claim is, I never read the handbook, you are going to be able to pull out the receipt from their file and show that they actually were paid to do this. So if the employee says, the former employee says, hey, I didn't read the handbook, then what the employee is admitting is they stole an hour of paid time. And that will never fly with any court or any jury. So it's important that you do that. It's important that you provide that. And then finally this, what you want to do is have them read it, and then the next day or a couple days after, you want to bring them in for another meeting, and you want to say, okay, anybody got any questions? And any questions they have, if you're comfortable with the handbook, you write them down and you answer the questions, okay? And you can do that even if you want to do it by email. You can review the handbook yourself and do that, or if you can answer it right then, you answer the question. And if you can't answer the question, if it's something you're not familiar with in the handbook, you reach out to us at Vision. You're a member of the Solution Center. This is what we do. You have a question by an employee, not only in this huddle, but anytime during your membership, all you got to do is pick up the phone or send us an email. So that's the way we're going to be doing this. I think you're going to find it a very effective tool for getting this information to the employees. Thanks.